Hi guys, welcome to another amazing training provided to you by Multiply and Kareen Club. I'm excited about this training today because after the training that we released earlier, we are now talking about some data points to consider before asking for funding. And we talked about the many different types of financial institutions and banks. Now that we've identified those, we want to know what are some of the data points we need to remember in order to understand, once we know and identify which bank to knock, what are some of the things I need to prepare in order to be ready to go to war with these funding requests. So this is what we're talking about today, data points to consider before asking for funding. Why do we need this, Kareen? Why do we have to do this, Kareen? Because many times the traditional way is you walk in a bank without any intention. You roll into a bank with a blindfold. You think you just have this amazing 800 credit score, and you go in, you just started a business and you apply without truly understanding, okay, what are the banks looking at when they come and see and look at some of the things that I have? They don't just look at your credit score. They don't just look at your credit profile. They look at so many other things. And one of the things I like to do is I want to be prepared for the war. So I can almost, because you can never guarantee, but you can almost guarantee that you're going to win. Because you play to win, you don't play with the blindfold and hoping you win. This is the strategy of what we're going to do. It's called matrix-like awareness. And everything we do, every step of the way, we need to have that matrix-like awareness. So let's dive deep. Number one, ask if it's for business funding or personal funding first. Now, who do I ask, Kareen? Right here, you ask yourself. Is it going to be for the intention and the purposes of operating your business to grow your business, or is it going to be just for personal funding? Because the minute that we realize which one we're going to do, then we know the other stuff. It all fall into place. We know the other stuff we're going to look for, right? And for the most part, since a lot of you are entrepreneurs or thinking of opening your own business, or you have personal stuff and you may want to go to personal, but for the most part, business funding is going to be one that really is going to need a lot of data points versus the personal side. So number two, check your personal credit score, right? It's not about your credit score, you guys, but it's one of the factors that they look at. So we want to make sure before we even identify a place to knock on the bank, we want to make sure that we look at those credit score, because we want to show up with matrix-like awareness. And then review your credit score profile, everything on your credit score profile, to ensure that you do not have any recent lates and or derogatories. Why is this important, Kareen? It's because if you already know beforehand that you have a recent late or a recent derogatory or something negative on your profile, you know for a fact that you're most likely going to get declined. So knowing that and having matrix-like awareness allows you to either pursue or retreat or surrender, right? Because you already know you're going to get declined anyways. What you need to do is hold off, clear out some of these recent lates and derogatories or any negative on your profile, because why would you? And we already know this. Every inquiry on our credit profile is a mark against our credit profile, which can range between 10 to 20 points. So if you already know that, why would you apply for something that you know you're going to get declined anyways, just to give your credit a big hit? We don't want to do that because we're already struggling in our profile. We want to make sure we clean it up first before we go, and here's where the problem begins, because some people actually are very reactive when they do these things. So I highly recommend to you to monitor your credit. So when it's time to go, you look at the monitoring and you kind of review everything, knowing with confidence to go to the bank and face the bankers and the VPs and all of those people you are going to have to talk to. So if you don't have a monitoring service, click the link in the bottom. As part of the resources, I'm going to link it up, all the links over there. This is highly critical, you guys, especially when you don't have a amazing credit yet. You know, minimum, we should be at 700. And then from 700, we work our way up. And when you are below 700, don't keep running and applying for credit, because the way that the credit profile looks at and the way that the bank reviews it, they're going to be under the impression that you are kind of on a desperate mode, that you're pushing yourself into this, even though you've constantly being declined, because you are not aware that you need a minimum of 700 credit score with no derogatories and late or any negatives that are recent. Okay. Number 3, what type of funding are you looking for? For example, do you need a car loan? Do you need a home loan? Do you need a business loan, et cetera, et cetera? The list goes on. This relates to the training I just did prior to this, because each and every types of financial institutions, AKA banks, remember we had community banking, we had national banks, we had credit union, we had regional banks, we had Harmony Lender, we had fintech, all of those guys, they eat different food, meaning they may not eat car loan or like car loan. They may not like home loans. So you need to actually go back to the old training. If you're skipped that training and you went straight to this, make sure that you go back to the prior training, because it's going to relate to you understanding, okay, if I need a car loan, okay, and you're going to ask, is it business or personal? You're going to knock on that bank's door, whoever has the strength of doing car loans. If it's a personal loan, you're going to do credit unions. Okay. If it's a car loan for your business, that could be the big 3, the national banks. So it's so much more to understand before you actually face your VPs and your bankers. So I just wanted to make sure that we dive deep into this. Number 4, how long have you been in business? These things kind of carry a weight depending on what you're looking for. Or have you had your personal credit profile been in existence for a while? Okay. Because many of you think that just because you have a separate entity, that the banks are not going to look at your personal credit. Now, this is going to be a yay or nay, because the big 3 are going to, or the traditional banks, excuse me, are going to look at, okay, we need personal guarantee. A lot of traditional banking and lending, they always require personal guarantee, which means everything. And when I say everything, I mean everything starts with personal credit. So it wedges on your personal credit, especially when you have a startup. Okay. Make sure that this is highly important to you to review, to monitor, and all of that stuff, because this is going to be the wedge that the financial institutions, the traditional banking and lending, are going to look at first, even if it's a business lending you're going to ask for, because of personal guarantee. They want to know, and this is where the personal guarantee, the why behind the personal guarantee is, they want to know that if the business does not survive and cannot repay the funding you are requesting, do you have a strong enough personal financial and personal credit history that can withstand the test of time in your business? That's what they want to know. Because when banks are lending to you, understand that as a bank, you want to make sure you underwrite people and businesses, okay, in a way that you are remembering that you are in the business to make money and recoup your principal and make the interest of whatever you charge. They are not in the business giving you funding for nonprofit and expecting them not to make any money. So they're always going to scrutinize your personal credit profile and how long and how established your business has been. This is a quite critical, this is really important data point you guys need to understand. Number 5, identify which door, aka bank, you're going to knock on. So if you've gone through the 4 data points, the first 4 that we've just went through, you're going to essentially now identify which bank is going to be beneficial for whatever it is you're looking for. This is why it's critical that you take the lesson from prior to this so you know what I'm talking about. Because it's critical to know, okay, even though I have a credit union account, I now have a business and my business is looking for equipment lending. And Kareen said in the prior lesson that regional banks might be the best door to knock on in terms of equipment lending. Guys, take advantage of this information because it will pay off in the long run. Number 6, once you have identified which door to knock on, which bank, you need to ask, hey, which bureau do you do a hard inquiry on? Why is this critical? Because there's banks, and Experian is going to be your most popular bureau that's highly utilized by financial institutions. The next most popular bureau is your Equifax. And then the least popular of the 3 is your TransUnion. Okay. Because you know these data points, you are going to ask, you literally just make a phone call, or you can even Google, which bureau does XYZ bank run a hard inquiry on? Boom. Once you identify that, for example, they identify as Experian or they identify as Equifax. Let's just say Equifax is the answer, right? What happens is when you go back to your credit profile in your monitoring, you're going to only care at this point, at this juncture, about Equifax. The rest doesn't matter because the bank doesn't care about the rest. The bank only cares about Equifax after you've gotten this very nice data point and information just by Googling or calling your VPs or your bankers. Okay. So because you find out that, you're going to have so much more confidence when you look at these 3 bureaus. You see Experian, Equifax, TransUnion, and then your Equifax might be the highest. So it's like they are never the same. These credit scores rarely ever talk to each other. They rarely are similar in score. So you can then identify, okay, this is really good because my Experian is, 800. My Equifax is 820, and maybe your TransUnion is 810. They always almost differ from each other. So it's highly critical. My gosh, guys, you're going to love this. It's highly critical to really understand these different data points. Okay, we're almost there. Number 7, actually, I have so much more to talk about, more than my usual 5 today, because this is some great information that I want all of you to lead with as you are growing your business or your entrepreneurship journey. Number 7, ask what the minimum credit score threshold is for this specific bank requires. Some bank may even require just 680. That's why I always say 700, because on average, it's just a lot easier to say 700, but some banks might have a threshold minimum of 680. And that's something that you're going to have to decide if you're between 680 to 700, whether or not you are willing to take the risk to do a hard inquiry. What I like to say 700, because I know that it gives you a buffer. as long as you don't have any lates or derogatories that are most recent. So make sure that you ask. It's still great to ask for this data point because it helps you strategize and make a pre-decision before you make a decision to allow them to run your credit, which can put a hard inquiry on your score, which can then lower your credit score, especially when you're trying to maybe down the road in the short term buy a home. You know, it's going to affect your ability to buy a home if your credit score goes down. So be careful out there. And this is why this training is so important. I want you guys to really get this training. Take it twice if you feel like you didn't get everything. Replay it if you want to replay it, but it's really, really important for you. Number 8, once you have identified which bureau, go back to your score. Oh, I already talked about this. I kind of jumped the gun. Go back to your credit score and bureau and review your report for that specific bureau only, and ensure that you meet those data point minimum requirement to get a better chance with your financial institution. It's all about getting the better chance, right? This is why we do this prior to us showing up in front of our request. Before we make that request or submit an application and click that submit button, because we want to get a better chance. Number 9, once you have identified all of the first 8 data points, you want to make that phone call to the bank and get a checklist of financials they want and need to apply for XYZ loan. I'm going to give you my experience, just out of the gate, my experience. They're going to ask if you're established business. Okay. They're going to ask for 2 years of tax returns for your business. They're going to ask for 2 years of tax returns for the people that owns the business. This is a personal guarantee. So if you have 3 owners, you're going to get 2 years of tax returns, 3 sets of them for every owner plus the entity. I mean, it can be such a thick and crazy amounts of financials. They're going to ask personal financial statements from you, debt schedule, because they want to know what other debts you have out there. They're also going to use that debt schedule for you to disclose if you're being honest to them, because trust me, you guys, they already know. And if you don't tell them, they'll know. Okay. There's no running away, but it's also a great vetting process for them to see if you have some integrity, because you are dealing with money. And if we are dealing with money, we want to make sure that we're lending money to people with integrity. They might ask for your K1s. If you own other businesses with other partners, there's going to be those K1s, but they will give you a checklist of things before you show up, because what I want you to do is that whenever you ask for funding, oh, by the way, if you are under 2 years old and you're less than 2 years established, they may only need a few, but always ask for the checklists of financials anyways, because you want to make sure that you are quick to respond, because these applications, like, you don't want to apply. Okay. Let it brew for a while, and then the bankers are having to chase you for different information. Okay. You want to make sure you show up with all of the information, and your bankers are going to be like, who told you to do this? Because nobody ever does this. I'm telling you this because I have inside information. You know, I have a huge amount of banking and financial services and lending in the business world experience. All right, number 10. Once you have all the checklists, now you know what you need. Collect everything and be ready before you even submit an application. I kind of just alluded to this already. So when they approve you and ask for those, you're Johnny on the spot. You want to be Johnny on the spot. They're going to love you. They're going to want to call you when there's a promotion, because you are Johnny on the spot when it comes to these. You know, the thing about banker client relationship, VP, if you find any one of your community banks, which I used to work for, there's always VPs in there. And one thing about those guys, when you take care of them and you're fast at giving them everything they need to get their applications approved, because their goals are depending upon your speed for providing all of these things. And if you're one of those that really are shining through for them, it's a two-way street. It's a two-way relationship. You're going to love them because they're speedy, because their speed is only dependent upon your speed, providing all of the checklists to them. Okay. Because they do have to go in front of their underwriters or submit everything to their underwriters. It is a process. And if you help them get the process go through smoother, you're going to be on their VIP lists. And I personally used to have a VIP list as a VP because I only wanted to work with select people, because there's only so much hours in the day. And if I didn't work with select people, it would burn through a lot of my time and the productivity, because it's still like a business. I treated it like a business, even though there was a salary involved. I did have a lot of bonuses involved. And in order to run a lean and mean machine business, even though I was on payroll, I wanted to only work with people that were quick on their feet whenever they need funding, because it allowed me to produce more. Okay. And that's why I maintain a VIP list. So that's what I want to do for you. I want you to be on that VIP list as you build your relationships with your community bank VPs, and take them to lunch once if they got you funding. Take them to lunch, and I'm almost 100% they will pay for your lunch, even though you were the one who took them. Of course, offer to pay, but of course, when you are a great client of the bank, they're always going to pick up your tab. With that being said, thank you for being here. Some housekeeping that we want to talk about, as always, after I do a training, is make sure you check the resources below this video. You guys, make sure you check that. If you're not yet inside the private Facebook group, join us over there. Please post your questions in between trainings, because there's a big gap, of course, in our trainings. As a reminder, our deliverables is about 2 trainings every month. When we do have a really long masterclass, just like we did in January, which was like a 90+ minute masterclass, I try to just release 1 training, and we have our masterclasses every quarter. Our Q1 masterclass was Owen Beanie, the Points partner, teaching us how to fly for free on beds, on planes. And it is an amazing training. Make sure if you missed that, you go back and take those training. It is a long masterclass, so I don't really want to take too much of your time, because I'm all about pacing it out. I'm all about not overwhelming students, and I'm all about making sure that the students are actually not only taking the classes, but also executing it and applying it to your life. You guys, you need to take the time to take the lessons, apply it, and execute it accordingly. Okay. We also now have a Kareen.Clubhouse private only for members on Clubhouse. So if you're not on Clubhouse, make sure you go in there. And this is a second training, not the first training. I forgot to update it, but the second training for February 2023. Hashtag do the work. Such a cool reminder, but I want to make sure that you all are doing your work. Okay. Post success and wins inside our Facebook group. And that space is for you, myself, to engage and interact. And so we could support each other. As always, my name is Kareen Mills, with my mother's heart on my photo, your super host here in this training. I'm also an Airbnb super host. My vision of this world is to mother the world, and you are inside Kareen.Club. Hashtag do the work. Thank you so much for being here.